Many of us are awakening. Many of us are becoming more conscious. Many of us are coming out of the woodwork right now as we speak. You can feel it. I know you can feel it, especially if you're arriving at this video. I don't believe in coincidences. I say that all the time. So if you're listening to this message most definitely is for you. There are a lot of things that are happening in this world, and obviously chaos seems to be seemingly the pinnacle of everything right now, right? Everything is leading up to multi-levels of uncertainty, whether it's in your individual lives or if you turn on the TV and you watch the news, at your work. There are companies that are collapsing, dismantling, while there's other companies that are coming up with new technology. You're seeing the rise with AI and all that, and I'm not getting into those specifics in this video. My intention here is observation. I'm giving you my perspective, not to believe me, but perhaps maybe to reflect upon so that you can observe yourself from within yourself and maybe see some forms of synchronicities, meaning that you see things that are common. And at the same time, pay attention to things that maybe when I speak, that there are things that might be even not. You know, whenever I speak in any of my videos, they could be antagonizing, they could be conflicting, they could be disagreements and whatnot. Pay attention and observe to all of that. Just remember something: when you disagree with something that I say or that you hear somebody else say anywhere in your life, within your life, understand that it's not about that other person. You know how it works with people. Even if you disagree with someone and you give them the 2 cents, if they don't have an open heart to listen to you and receive you, especially if you're coming from your heart, you know they're going to keep working within their flow, their frequency. So whatever you disagree with, you're wasting your energy, your time. If you just say, I disagree, and you work with them, and then you end up with this like conflict, and you probably feel better because you got your point across. But when you go home, you're exhausted. That person's probably exhausted, or maybe that person got energized from you. You know what I mean? Maybe you empower them more within their belief system from what you felt was conflicting in the first place. More important than looking at one side of the coin or the other is to see how things and situations and people interactions, such as this video, how does it make you feel? The whole point is tapping into your heart again, your source. The whole point is to tapping into your strong emotions, because emotions here on earth within our body is language. It's a language that most people forgot to work with, so they allow the emotions or your emotions to run amok and to just like illuminate your entire mind as to what the situation may be. And oftentimes it becomes a form of distortion. And I'm not speaking to every single one of you, and I'm not speaking to much of females. Most likely the people who fall guilty to this are male. And of course, some females who are working within this distortion of the sick patriarchy. And the only thing I can say to females is that there's nothing for you to do except to detox from the poisoning of your minds, from what's taught to you by unintentionally by your parents, the school system, morality. You were born females. You were born into this form of sick patriarchy, sick consumerism. Everything that you see is all about the logo. It's all about choosing a side. It's about choosing a religion. It's about choosing the political affairs. It's about choosing whether you go to college or where you don't. You see, you have like one or another choice once you're out of high school, because your entire school system has programmed you and bred you, all of us, to make these choices. And now we have these paradigms, almost like a monopoly game. We're basing everything based on the standards that were kind of embedded into us. And the hard part is to collapse that system with you if you're working within the realm of your sense of awakening from all of who you're not. So again, females, not simply, all you need to do is to start working within your shadow work and going deeper. From my perspective as a male, take it with a grain of salt. Take it as a fragmented perspective. One fragment, which could be 100%, let's say, valid, you know, but that's just 100% of one fragment of your entire presence. So yes, females, it's important that you start finding ways for you to emotionally, physically, mentally purge from all of who you're not in your time and in your way. And when you start asking yourself these questions, if this message in particular resonates with you for some reason, then once you start going inward and you start journaling, meditating, and start asking the right questions, that's how you start using your mind to program a new set of questions that maybe you didn't outwardly speak to yourself within your silence, within your quietude, within your meditation, within your emotional field. Because the most powerful person that you know, females, it's you. There's no man or male in this world that is more powerful than you in any way, shape, or form. And of course, people can disagree, and that's okay. That's the intention of this message, is to irk, to offer conflict, to offer perspective. But the intention of this message today is singularity. A lot of us are coming out of the work from the dark, from within, the unknown, as we start remembering the light from within us, all humans. And many of us are not, but enough of us are during this time, and at a rapid pace, which is why maybe you're probably arriving at more distorted beliefs and thoughts coming at you, why you may be even more irritated with people when you speak with, or maybe you may find yourself disengaging from people that you've always cared to hang out with, whether it's family or friends, even the closest relatives. There's a reason for that. It has nothing to do with them, but at the same time it does. So in this paradox that we're living in, we're reminded that we must find our way to remember that we are masters within the paradox of all of who we are not and all of who we are, using the theory of yin and yang. And if you understand what I'm saying, that just like in the theory of yin and yang, when you speak about light, or when you speak about electricity per se, when you speak about all energy that moves this entire quantum field, all energy that moves anything or any particular pattern, or any particular physical or non-physical material, a person, a plant, the air, the ocean, anything that has atoms is electrically charged within this holographic reality, this quantum field, this labyrinth of an existence, it seems. And for those of you who have been working with yourself, even in complete failure, but you're working with yourself anyway, knowing that you need to start purging and shedding parts of you that are no longer working within your system, you will start to notice one thing, that as you start to work with the light of your existence, because you start to become even more conscious of yourself, and you start to get kind of like moments of awakening, and then you find yourself back into like the knot, and you find yourself, oh my gosh, I found out and I remember who I am, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the dark again. It's because right now you are in the in-between, naturally so, which is also where Mother Earth is. She's in the in-between. She's in between 3 and 5, 3D, 5D per se. She's in the 4 right now. It's a transitory time. It's a transitory process. That's why things are happening more rapid. She's shedding. The matriarchy is opening up to the truth, because she can no longer be withheld by this sake patriarchy. Seemed impossible for thousands of years, but now the entire universe, guides, angels, we're all working within one unified field under one notion. Unconditional love. Within that frequency, it's not a word, it's a frequency. It's a state of arriving and a state of being. Once you're working within that frequency of unconditional love that you already have as a receiver, you have it within the field, within your heart chakra, within your actual physical and metaphysical functioning heart. That's why all the blood flows always has to start and kind of like arrive back at the heart, because the heart is the center. It is the love potion of your actual existence. And whenever you don't feel the love, it has nothing to do with your heart. It has to do with the other things from your lower state of consciousness, your lower chakras, your first, second, and third per se. Those are the ones that you're still working in within that field. So as you are awakening, as you are finding yourself no longer resonating at that field, and you're raising up above the diaphragm, right? That physical obstruction, it feels like, where your lungs breathe. Yeah, your lungs breathe, right? And when you breathe, you can't breathe into your lower diaphragm because there's the diaphragm, right? But yet, as your lungs inhale, your lungs actually, when you correctly inhale, then your diaphragm goes like this, and it starts to properly contract, expand, or move in this direction. and you start massaging your organs. You start to massage your organs in your lower part of your body, which is actually a natural state and a necessary state to be in. Most people don't breathe correctly, so they start to stagnate down here. Your lymphatic system is very mechanical. It has to be moved, circulated, and dredged. The circulatory system of the diaphragm has to do with your respiratory system. It has to do with physical movement. A lot of people don't know this. So it's important now more than ever for all of you people, especially if you're a light worker, you're a grid worker, if you're definitely starseed, if you're empathic, if you're waking up into your psychic abilities, or you've always been, but you're looking to unravel things that you're not, and you're looking to ascend. It's important that you start to purge and to break up the stagnation of your walking water body. And in order to do so, you need to be physical. You need to do cardio in your own way. You have to find something of an exercise that you find joy with. Mix it with your yoga, your qigong, your kung fu, with sports. Do it your way, within your blueprint. But it's more important, more than ever, for you to start to, accelerate your cardiovascular system, to increase your heart rate, so that you start not only just exercising the muscle, so that you can increase the capacity to move and dredge toxins, neurotoxins that are leaving the body, because you are accumulating more than ever. Because if you're doing the spiritual work faster than ever, and it's also in synchronicity with the DNA codes that you're receiving from the changes of the sun and the solar flares, whatnot, and the changes of Mother Earth at the same, positive and negative, and I'll get there real quick, right? The sun and the moon per se, or the sun and the earth, right? The energy of the positive ions, the positive energy, and the energy of the negative energy, which is are the electrons, And it's important that you physicalize these downloads, so that your body, you need your body's your physical temple, as your soul depends on it right now, is how we communicate right now, is how we're communicating right now. So having said that, when your physical body starts to expand, as well as your spirit, as well as your emotions start to become more refined, and as more as you start to know yourself, you have to start knowing your internal body at the same time, and understand that the more it's working at peak levels, meaning that you're more in shape in the cardiovascular, within your muscles, within your tendons, within the sinews, and the bone level, the marrow level, then you allow the body to upload that download. Otherwise, what's going to happen is that you're going to feel indigestion, you're going to feel bloating, you're going to have rapid weight loss, maybe rapid weight gain, depending on the person, because your body's becoming overwhelmed with the inability to digest this information. So the body has to find a way to digest it in a substantial physical form, and exercise, working out, is very, very important. Is vital within this time, as we're in the in-between. And again, many of us are becoming even more and more conscious of this in-between state. Some people want to run away because they're like actually having a freak out attack, because they're very, very, very high in frequency. And this is not a good or a bad thing. This is their time for them to work within that fear cycle, because they came in from a high frequency, and it's happening to many of us around us. It's because the divine from within them, within their journey, it's not for us to understand, is telling them to go into seclusion, is telling them to go and unplug from everything and everyone for a minute, and allow them to come back into their bodies. And I can speak differently, for my story is different, but I'm giving these scenarios. Lastly, as we start to come up and wake up within the paradox of this yin and yang of our existence, as in light and darkness, I'm talking of pure energy. I'm not talking about the labeling or identification or whatnot, but light and dark energy, almost like the separation of electricity. You have your positive and you have your negative, right? You can't stick your finger, or a car battery, you can't touch the positive, right? Because you could get shocked. You could touch the negative. It's like helps you to ground, right? Because your body's full of these negative electrons to help you to ground, which is earth, grounding. And then the positive is like thunder, lightning. If that hits us and we don't have the ability to ground to that capacity, that's why we burn, When we have the ability to actually match that positive of electricity, if we got struck by lightning, in theory, then we're able to ground and the energy goes through us and it doesn't like burn us from within. But since we don't have that ability to the capacity of that high potency frequency of thunder and lightning, that's why we'll burn, right? That doesn't make thunder and lightning, evil, right? Because it's light, it's pure electricity, but it's the positive side of electricity. In the same way that dark is not about evil, but it does attract the darkness. Evil becomes attracted to it because they cannot be within the light right now and they feed off of the dark energy by itself, right? And people who walk and disconnect from the dark energy, unfortunately, a lot of organized religions, historically speaking, I'm not spewing on any particular individual church. I'm just saying in general, from a historical point of view. And what happens is that you go too much into the light and you disregard your whole darn body. And now you're like, working with Christ consciousness and you're receiving all this information and you're doing things prophetically within your gifts, but then your whole body's like actually running amok. And now when something beautiful happens in your life that's new, you're not prepared. You're not prepared for these changes. Because when something beautiful arrives in this planet, there has to be a dismantling of what doesn't or what cannot exist anymore. Utter chaos. I can't explain what that is. That's just like another talk. So once we start understanding that majority of us came from the dark, thinking we were working in the light. And once we start understanding that we came here to master also the dark energy, as it seems separate here in this paradox, whatnot, you have to understand that there's a sense of polarity between dark and light, between the earth and the sun, which allows us to be able to exist in the 3D. All right, that's from a scientific and a chemist point of view. You could do your research and you could go deep with that. You don't even need to be, working within spirit with that. You could just go straight to the books and you'll see black and white if that's the way your mind is working right now. We're talking about singularity. Once you start awakening that you are in this paradox. See, the whole point is to bring everything back to source, to center, to your heart. As above, so below. As within, so without. And in essence, that also means that once you are aware from your experiences of light forces and light energy, yang energy, like yin and yang, and the dark forces or the dark energy that you're not aware of, that makes you afraid. So because you're afraid, you're not aware, so you start labeling it and you go, that's dark, that's evil, and you just put it away. And what happens when you do things like that, you're going to attract more of it, because with fear, when you start exercising something like an exercise, you're actually contributing to that same energy because it's something that you needed to see. Dark energy actually has to enter you just like the light. Using the theory or understanding of singularity, it's to say when it's your time and in your way to no longer reside within the field of the paradox, but you require the paradox for it to come home, the yin and the yang to finally come home, to come into one unified field. Then things start to wrap up, become more rapid in your life. Spirit starts to raise up faster and higher. Your awakening becomes ever so more present. Why? Because now you're using the energy that was never intended to be separate. It's almost like it was a science experiment here on Earth, in an awakening school, right? To see how it is when everything's separate and people chose sides. People chose sides, and then these leaders that were on one side or the other, they started to take everyone with their innocence, right, and their ignorance from themselves. And they started to kind of like work with them like sheep. And everybody's tallied in groups like sheep. All of these organized groups are like sheep right now. Even the New Age group, a lot of them, in general, again, get mad at me, please. In general, they are organizing a whole new sense of a religion by saying they're not religious. Within the realms of truth or false, there are going to be individual people from that last statement that are going to say, you're wrong, dude, because this is what I do for these people. I don't care. We're not talking about that. We have to go deeper. And in order to go deeper from what I just said, you actually have to open up and receive, because if something triggered you, or if something is actually making you more curious, or kind of like enlighten you a little bit, maybe go deeper with what I'm saying that is beyond my words. It's beyond truth or false, or your story and my story. See, in the realm of singularity is to allow both energies to finally intermingle so that you can start to experience and change your actual quantum field, your torus field, T-O-R-U-S, your Merkaba, not just intellectually, but to become what you've been meditating on. Because as you continue to meditate with all these techniques, there's like 17, 20 techniques to open up your Merkaba, which is a necessary kind of like a kung fu of meditation for you to arrive at. You're in the light. You're in one side of the paradox. Then when you go into the dark, it's like you're doing your shadow work. You're working on all the things that you can't resolve. You have uncertainty. What I'm saying is that both of them are necessary. They are both necessary because you're looking to master both sides of the field by becoming who you are not. It's that simple. Becoming all of who you're not so you can actually be ready to shed. Because if you intellectually start to rationalize who you're not, there's nothing to shed. There's nothing to shed. Unless you came into a state of completion. But if you did, trust. First of all, this video probably wouldn't find you or me, or you'd be reaching out to me privately and we'd be going deeper into communication in physical form, telepathic form, or in the metaconscious form. We'd be communicating in higher realms. There's so much more that meets the eye. There's so much more that meets the eye than what I'm saying, than what you're saying. I'm no guru. I'm not here with truth. And if you get caught up with that with me, then that's another spider web that you need to see within yourself. I'm showing you that there's some synchronicity between you and I. That not even the phone, not even this past recording is separating us. If you just simply pay attention and observe that as we're speaking, there's something beautiful and profound between our connections right now. It's like we've always known each other. It's almost like you're speaking to yourself, reflecting back at you, and another person and another form of consciousness. So lastly, there's duality and non-duality. And non-duality is reaching a state of a sense of singularity, as I mentioned before. That means breathing in both dark and light, going beyond the realms of discernment, in complete failure, with complete uncertainty, and allow yourself to get lost within that river of a feeling and a state of arriving within your state of meditation, within your state of consciousness. Listen to your heart, and from within there, your guides, your higher self will speak to you. This is your time. All you need to do is listen. 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 Beyond the six senses. Because if all you did was just believe me based on what you heard, what you're seeing, how I appear to you, my intentions, good and bad. You might see dark and light within me. Then you're missing the point. And if you're missing the point, this video is also for you. Reflect on it, work on it, reach out to me, consultations, if you feel curious enough to go deeper with me.